Joining me right now with reaction, Harvard Law professor and the author of Trumped Up, Mr. Alan Dershowitz. Professor, good to see you. What do you think of it?
Thank you. Well, first, all we have is a memo, which is a secondary source, telling us what's in the FISA application. It certainly constitutes what I would call probable cause to let us go further and see what was actually in the FISA memo. The Democrats say it presents an incomplete picture. Let the Democrats present a more complete picture. I think the American public is entitled to see the entire thing. That's why right from the beginning I called for a nonpartisan investigation into all of these issues, because this has become so partisan that we get one memo from the Republicans characterizing what the FISA application was like, and we're getting information from the Democrats saying, no, that's misleading, it was very different. We, the American public, are deprived of the objective truth by the constant clash of partisan narratives.
You're right. And I look at this and I say to myself, you know, if I'm writing a term paper, say in one of your classes, Professor, you know, I could be using the same books and sources as somebody else, and I could have one thesis and conclusion and back it up with my information I'm getting from those books, and somebody else could have a completely different thesis and conclusion. And so I want to see the books, the original books. I mean, I know that it's challenging because of national security concerns, but if they could redact a lot of that information so that we don't have to view this through some kind of political prism, I think that would go a long way, would it not?
I agree with you completely. And the other thing we've learned is that this memo, people were saying this memo, that the country would crumble and fall if this memo were released that has all kind of important national security content. I don't see it. I almost never see it. In 50 years of doing these kinds of cases, the claims of censorship, national security classification are almost always overblown. And when you see the actual document, go back to the Pentagon Papers, the government said the country wouldn't survive the release of the Pentagon Papers. We're doing quite well. And I think the same thing is true here. I suspect that we could see a lot of the actual FISA application. Some would have to be redacted, and it would not endanger national security. It would give us a better basis for deciding, as you said, it's reading the original book instead of the term paper on one side or the other side. These are hearsay. These are hearsay descriptions of what Republicans claim is in the application, and we're hearing hearsay descriptions of what the Democrats claim. We should see the real thing.
That said, what they're claiming isn't very good. It's kind of scary stuff. No. I mean, if this is the case, if somehow our FBI relied on opposition research to get a FISA warrant, what's that tell you about the state we're in?
The most important thing is not what's in it, it's what was left out. That they didn't tell, apparently didn't tell the FISA court who paid for, who commissioned the report on which the application was at least partially based. The court should have known that this was opposition research paid for by one political party to try to get dirt on another political party. I think the FISA court would take that information into account very seriously in deciding whether to grant the application or deny it.
You know, I've read the dossier. I don't know if you've read it. I don't necessarily encourage people to read it because it ain't pretty. But I'll tell you, Professor, that dossier reads like opposition research that's destined for a supermarket tabloid. I don't know how an intelligence officer or someone who had worked in intelligence would have ever written anything in that way, because it was so biased and it read like a piece of tabloid trash. I mean, is our FBI not smart enough to kind of say, yeah, this thing's a little dicey, you can just tell by the way it's written?
Well, and they should have told the FISA court about that and should have given an assessment of the credibility of the source, which they normally do. So I think there's a lot more that we have to learn about why certain things were included, why certain things were omitted, and whether or not the granting of the wiretap application really violated the Constitution. There's a Supreme Court case that says that if the court was willfully misled by the application, that the Fourth Amendment has been violated, and there's an exclusionary sanction that applies. So there's a lot more we have to learn. This is just the beginning of a much deeper inquiry that should be conducted by nonpartisan, objective experts representing the people of America,
Is there
not
any such
one
thing
party of our two-party system. Yes,
days?
the 9/11 Commission had real experts on it. And they didn't point fingers. They just came to conclusions about how we can prevent a recurrence. We need a commission looking into this to prevent recurrence of what happened in this last election. This last election does not make America proud on either side.
Mm-hmm. And as I keep saying, I guess Vladimir Putin got exactly what he wanted, because we've got a bit of a state of chaos right now.
I mean, I don't think he had a particular interest in who won the election. I think he generally tries to destabilize the United States of America, and he has succeeded in doing that. And we have shot ourselves in the foot by appointing a special counsel to look at criminal charges instead of appointing a nonpartisan commission to get information out in the open, transparency, so we can prevent Russia from, once again, trying to influence our elections. This should be a nonpartisan issue. All Americans should be deeply concerned about any efforts by Russia to influence any elections in this country or any other country.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, you know, I always appreciate your objectivity in this, because I know you're a Democrat and a Hillary Clinton supporter, but you're fair in this one, and our viewers appreciate it as well. Thank you so much. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you so much.